Well, welcome to Christ and Culture. This is Pastor Jeff Short, your Bible teacher and cultural commentator. And today we're going to be looking at something I've been talking about for years and years now as a pastor, and that is the rise of the celebration of Halloween every year and how this celebration, different from all of these other holidays we have, but this celebration is taking a darker and darker turn, and it's becoming more and more popular. So as our culture becomes more decadent and depraved and rebelling against God, this Halloween celebration every year, this holiday, so-called, has become more and more popular. It's just as if it tracks the rebellion and the disobedience of people as they turn away from God in our culture, in our secular world. They become more and more attracted to this darkness that is following Halloween that we've seen over the last few decades. Now, I remember when I was a kid, I used to go trick-or-treating, but it was not like it is today. It was more of a fun kids thing. You dressed up as a pirate, you dressed up as an astronaut, you dressed up as a dinosaur, and the girls dressed up like princesses, and they dressed up like different Hollywood famous actresses, Snow White. It was Disney characters kind of a thing. Very harmless, very simple and innocent, and there was candy and all kinds of other things. Now it is a vastly different landscape as it was back in those days. Now we have a darkness that is really emphasizing the death and scary and blood and violence and torture. It's just a lot of mess mixed up in the celebration of Halloween, and it's only getting worse and worse that way. Well, I want to showcase that claim. I want to prove that claim by just visiting one of the most popular phenomenons around Halloween. There is this franchise called Spirit Halloween. Again, a reference to occultism, spirits, the evil spirits, the demonic spirits, this sort of spirit behind Halloween. And now they have these franchise locations all over the country where this Spirit Halloween franchise will come into a mall, some location somewhere around the country, and rent that for like a whole month around Halloween time and set up shop. And people come in there and visit and buy costumes and buy Halloween decorations now. They say that Halloween now is second only to Christmas in spending for decorations. And I can testify to around the area I live, there were people already setting up their Halloween home displays in their front yard a good month and a half ahead of Halloween. And so as the time of I'm producing this video right now, it's about a couple days away from Halloween. But there are homes that have been set up with this really dark Halloween imagery for at least a month and a better part of 2 months, almost 2 months. So this is becoming popular. This is becoming something part of our culture, and it's really a sad development, I have to say, because this is not a good, wholesome, clean, fun family celebration holiday anymore. This is becoming more of a symbol of rebellion and an attraction to the ugly and the gruesome and the bloody and the violent and the dark death side of even occultism, witchcraft, demons, monsters, vampires, just all of the dark side of things you can see now is coming into Halloween. So it's not a very good spiritually healthy Halloween celebration. It's not a good psychologically healthy. I'll explain later. I was in this Spirit Halloween location, and A very strange thing happened. A little boy wandered up to me sort of in a daze, mumbling something incoherent to me, came up to me, approached me as if he was confused, shocked, scared, anxious. I don't know what he was, but I stood there and he was just mumbling something to me. A little boy, I think maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years old. He was actually taken into this store by his parents, and it was a very strange thing. I'll talk about that later, but let's get into this presentation as I go into the store here. And this is the front. And you go in the front, and the first thing to greet you is none other than a sort of a spastic individual with a chainsaw. This is all automated, animated character run by, I think it's run by Air and some kind of, but they had sound effects, and here's this guy with a chainsaw, and this is part of that genre of movies, the horror movies, where they have some crazy, insane, madman, evil, violent person who goes around cutting people up with a chainsaw, cutting arms off, cutting necks off, cutting legs off, cutting body parts up. This is not healthy, wholesome family fun. This is the nightmare content that you might see in a horror movie. So I just randomly started taking some pictures around the store. So this guy greets you when you come in with full audio and motion. Then you come up to this creepy clown. Again, they're playing on some of the deepest fears of children, especially because children can be very traumatized by clowns because of their gaudy features and sometimes very gruesome features. Well, this one plays up on that, and he's got blood on the bowling pins, and he is screaming at the top of his lungs and shrieking and just really disturbing. And I can imagine if you're a little kid, if you're probably somebody under 10 years old, this is going to be traumatic because it plays, again, on some of the worst fears that kids have. Now, that little kid that I ran into in the store, I don't know what his problem was. I don't know if he lost his parents in the midst of all of this chaotic, frightening, scary stuff, but he was disturbed. His psychology was being messed up, and I hope his parents learn to never bring their kid into something like this, especially a young kid, because it's just too much. It's a visual overload, sensory overload. It's got sound and sights, and it's really not very good visuals. So you come in here, and then there's a scarecrow in front of a tombstone, and he's got sound and sight, motion, and he's screaming and doing all kinds of scary things. And then you have this guy, this clown, who has got a grimace on his face, and he's got a knife in his hand. Again, the violence. We see blood and violence, blood on his cheeks and violence. Again, these are things that come right out of the horror genre of movies. There he is. And, again, if you're a little kid, this is going to traumatize you. And people began to buy these things and put them in their front yards of their homes. It's totally insane. Do you want your child traumatized? Do you want your child having nightmares at night? I remember my parents used to be very careful for me and my sister to not watch something on TV, whether it's a movie, whether it's a science fiction program, whatever it is, to not watch anything that would then get in our heads and traumatize us, scare us, cause us to have nightmares, because a kid's imagination runs wild. So if you feed them all this input, they're going to get very, very frightened and afraid and scared. And this is what Halloween has been doing now for at least 2 or 3 decades, and it's only getting worse. Now, this store is really fueling that whole movement, that whole craze into the darkness at Halloween. Here is another kind of disturbing. This is a plague. They used to have these plague masks on because they thought that it was the scent or smell of, or the germs that came in the mouth. So they had these long beaks and kind of plays on the plague, the Black Death of Europe. And so you'd have these creepy personages running around during the Middle Ages, during the Black Death, with these long beak attachments on their front face. And again, scary, dark imagery. Here is a mask, a hockey stick, hockey goalie mask that is used again in some of these horror movies where the killer hides behind this mask, whether because he's been scarred or he's gotten into a knife fight or some violent thing happened to his face. So he hides his true face, and now he's bitter at society, so he goes out and murders and kills and dismembers people. And this is a popular horror movie genre theme. And so, of course, Halloween has to include that now in its representation, because that's the whole point. You gotta bring in all the darkness. You've got to bring in all of the worst things, and then you have to mainstream them in Halloween. Okay, here is these are sort of zombies, and you can buy these masks, and I see these all over in the front yards of homes, and they're just like The Walking Dead, the zombie kind of undead, and disturbing images, definitely ugly images, scary images, and again, kids. These are the things of nightmares for kids. So why would you ever bring your child into this store? I saw that kid wandering around, and he came up to me as if he knew me, and he was just mumbling something incoherently as I'm going through clicking pictures, and almost as if he was suffering from, post-traumatic stress syndrome, something. And the parents brought him in this store in the midst of this ugliness and darkness. And I hope they don't have to go to a counselor and really work through a lot of things with this kid, because he might have been damaged. And this can happen all the time if you expose your children to this kind of stuff. I think it just goes without saying, no, you don't want to take your young, impressionable kid in a store like this. It's not even healthy for adults, but I'm talking about traumatic experiences that kids can go through by seeing things, just seeing things. It can be damaging. Now here's a vampirix at a coffin or a tombstone. Again, these are all with audio. These are all screaming and shrieking and moving around like they're real. I mean, this is kind of like the Disney thing. If you've ever gone down to Florida to Disney World, and you've seen animatronics, I think it's called, where they actually can have these objects moving and speaking, and it looks real. And again, to kids, what looks real is very different, is the same thing pretty much as real. There's very little difference. Again, the themes from the horror movies, you have these masks that people have put on to hide their face from the world, and then they go out and do violent things. So you have this violence introduced into the celebration of Halloween, which is really, what's it doing there? What's the violence part? Why do we have to bring the violence horror movie genre into supposedly a family-friendly holiday? Again, the creepy clown motif, there was a lot of that. Just scary clown, traumatize kids, get kids running, screaming. This is the kind of stuff that you would see in a fright house, a haunted house kind of a thing, where that has become big. And that has been big for decades now, where you go into this haunted house kind of a thing put on together by some group, maybe sometimes the JCs of some community, and they make it as ugly and bloody and dark as they can to try to frighten people. And people pay money to be frightened. They do that for movies, which is sort of a sick psychological thing. You go to the movies to be traumatized. What's the goal? The worse trauma, the better, I guess. I mean, that's weird. So here's some other gruesome things. We've got like an undead mask. Now, they even bring in the mocking of Christianity. You have the Exorcist theme, where you have a priest outfit or a monk outfit, because, of course, the tie-in is you need a priest or a monk or a Christian leader or a pastor to drive out the demons. And so they're going to bring in the demon theme now, and they'll play with that theme. So, in a connection to the Exorcist movie, the classic in the early 70s, where a little girl was possessed by the demons and the priest comes in and casts the demons out. Okay, so now that's part of Halloween. Just bring everything you can that is disturbing and very scary, traumatizing, bring that into the celebration. Now here is some more of the clown, and this is more of a doll thing. So the dolls are made to be scary, and you'll see this in the front yards of a lot of homes where they have scary dolls. I just saw in the Detroit News, there was a home in Grosse Pointe where it was the whole front yard was filled with old dolls, only they were positioned in a way that made them scary. There was a big casket around there, and these dolls were surrounding the casket. Some of the dolls had their head cut open, and some looked like blood on them. It was bloody dolls. What is that? Bloody dolls? Little girls' dolls made to look scary and ugly and look like they've been done violence to, and the things, again, of nightmares for kids. Here is a kid's doll that, again, looks very scary, something that a kid would not want to be playing with. Here's a scary creature in a doll form. Again, something that you wouldn't want to give your kid, because it sort of would be more traumatizing than comforting. Not something healthy that kids would play with. These are outright ugly. These are pigs that have blood all over their face, and or look like they're violent. They've got fangs on them that could bite you. Another theme, a scary theme that is the thing of nightmares, as if you're confronted by some violent animal that has fangs and they're going to tear you limb to limb. I mean, why expose yourself to this violent stuff? Why purposefully do it? Here's werewolves. Oh yeah, you got to get the werewolves in, and things that do violence against people at night. You tap into all of the scariest stories that have come down through history. People turning into werewolves and then attacking townspeople, and all kinds of themes like that are scary, that can be dealt with. You can handle those as if you're reading them. If you're an adult and it's some folklore, but as a kid, you're going to push that into the kids' face and have them react to that. No, that's terrible. Now, here's an outright demon. So you bring in the demons. You bring in the devils. You bring in the deepest, darkest demonic themes to Halloween, because that's what Halloween now is all about. You try to drag everything in that is ugly and frightening and traumatic and bloody and violent. You just bring it all into Halloween, because evidently that's what the goal is. So then you have some more masks. It looks like there's a gas mask right here, some kind of World War I gas mask. You've got, this is The Purge. I guess that is a horror movie that I don't want to see. I've heard about it, where there's one day of the year where everyone is allowed to kill and maim and destroy, and then the next day everything's back to normal, and it's called The Purge. This is, again, ugliness, darkness. Why would you want to bring this kind of stuff into the world and amplify it, even one day of the year? It's kind of like Halloween is that purge, where people embrace the darkness, they embrace the violence, they embrace the gore and the blood. Is it because we have it so good here? I mean, Israel was just attacked and slaughtered by a terrorist group, where bodies are left lying on the streets and there's blood everywhere and bullet holes and just burnt bodies and all kinds of ugliness. And that is something you never want to depict or portray in some kind of a light way. Well, we in the West, in the United States especially, we've been so blessed and sheltered from that violence. What, we go and try to manufacture that ugliness? It just doesn't make sense. Halloween should not be a day where people actually seek out the darkness and the disturbing images and try to get into that. No, it's terrible. Here's some more ugly clown, demonic, gruesome-looking clown images that would scare any kid and scare anybody, actually, if they saw somebody walking down the street with these things at night. Demons here. We see demons, and we see the scary a skeleton. Now, those have always been around, and the skeleton, but boy, we've gone far beyond that in today's world. It just goes on and on. You have this is the theme of death, rest in peace. You see a lot of these in the front yards of people's homes. These are very common. The rest in peace tombstones, and again, obsession with death, just obsession with darkness, obsession with disturbing images. And so you want to say, well, wait a minute, what's the deal? Why would people spend their time wasting their time with these kind of things? Why would you do that? Why would you waste your time? So here's a skeleton. But again, it's not just the skeleton. It is the dramatizing of it. This is the sight and the sound and making it real. The bringing the picture of a skeleton, which has always been there. Now you're putting motion to it and audio to it, and you're just making it almost real. Now here's a sort of a werewolf. No, it's a bat. Sort of a werewolf, yeah. So again, bringing the scariest images that have always been in the deepest, darkest corners of people's mind that have traumatized them when they've heard about such things, and you're bringing it into almost reality by making it come alive almost with electronics and special effects and things like that. And, bringing a kid in there, those parents who brought that little boy in there that came up to me, babbling some incoherent something to me, saying something to me. He was trying to say something to me, but his words were all gibberish, and he looked traumatized. I felt bad for the kid. I didn't know if that was something that was part of the store or what, but this little boy was definitely traumatized. Look at these body parts. You can buy body parts to throw around your front yard. There's some feet, some hands, fingers, arms, just body parts, dismemberment. this is really going too far. What do you have here? You've got some other body parts. It's just, blood-looking body parts. Chains, just right out of the horror movies. Here are the gargoyles that sit atop of buildings in the ancient medieval time, where they built them to try to ward off demons. Again, bringing that kind of stuff into the present day. You've got all kinds of bones. You've got all kinds of, these are almost reminiscent of the voodoo religion, where they like to collect all kinds of skulls and bones, and they take a human skull and they'll shrink it. You've heard of the shrunken heads, shrunken skulls. And then they'll have a collection, a bone collection, where they'll have incantations to the spirit world. This is voodoo stuff here. So really kind of sick stuff. Again, the vampire, sort of the Barnabas Collins theme, vampires, that kind of stuff still. And then you have it's a sort of a woman's head on the spider body. This is pretty traumatic stuff for a kid. No wonder that little boy was wandering around. I don't know if he was panicking because he lost his parents, he couldn't find his parents, or whether he was traumatized by these visuals. But hey, there's no question that this is not a place you want to bring a young child, especially. But really, kids, I would say all the way up to 10. This is the place that you can feed their mind with nightmare material and then spend the rest of the year trying to deal with the aftermath of traumatizing them at such a place. Look at this. Look at this. This is hanging. People are hung, and evidently they're left on the scaffold, and their body decays, and they just become corpses. Just, again, gruesome, bad. Here's the head of a woman, body of an ant creature that is shrieking and traumatizing you as you go by. And also they bring in the occult, and they have a display for the Ouija board, and trying to promote that as just good, clean fun. Family gets together and they conjure up the spirits of the dead. No big deal, right? Yeah, it's a big deal. That is a form of demonic communications, because the people that are being contacted are not the original people that died. They are demons who are impersonating them. And this is totally forbidden in the Bible. Christians need to stay a mile away from this stuff. But that's now put a part of Halloween. And again, Ouija board book, how to conjure up the spirits. Just bad news all around. Look at this. Demon angels. Now, I haven't seen anything like this except maybe in rock and roll music, where Led Zeppelin had a theme like this. But look at the babies or zombie babies, and just ugly, ugly images. Yeah, this is not a good celebration, holiday. This is not a good, healthy thing. And I think parents need to say no to this kind of thing. Look at this clown, again, a scary clown. They need to say no to this kind of stuff. They need to say, no, thank you. We're not going to expose our kids to this, and really say no, thank you for the whole Halloween. Well, I hope that's been a helpful survey of something very important, and we'll see you back next week. God bless.